A Duff Said is brought to you by Sheldon Street Pizza. Visit them online at sheldonstreetpizza.com or stop by Sheldon's during your next trip to Lake Orion. Sheldon Street Pizza, the official pizza of A Duff Said. And by Fourth Coast Cider Works, quality craftsmanship, quality hard cider. You can check them out online at fourthcoastciderworks.com or come get a can or a howler at their Canterbury Village location. Not available for anyone under the age of 21. Please drink responsibly.
You're listening to the best local sports podcast in Michigan, and that's A Duff Said.
Thank you so much for hitting the play button on your favorite listening device of choice from wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Duff Tyler, and that's A Duff Said. This week's show is about the man that I consider to be the best high school sports public address announcer in the state of Michigan. For nearly 50 years, Steve Gale was a teacher in the Freeland School District. Now, I first met Steve back in 2017. He was working as the public address announcer during a Falcons football game. Now, on that night, the school took a moment to honor Steve for his 25 years behind the mic. A few months later, I caught up with Steve during basketball season. Here is my story on the legendary voice of the Falcons. Steve Gale has made the drive to Freeland High School for the last 44 years. As a math teacher, he's crunched a lot of numbers. For the last 25 years, the gym and the football field have been his other classroom.
My daughters graduated from Freeland, and they always said, well, Dad, you were there when I was there. So I knew it's been quite a few years.
And it's not game night. Let's go Freeland! Until his voice fills the gym.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Freeland High School.
Since 1992, Steve has been the school's public address announcer.
Caden Blanchard.
It started as a favor.
Came up to me and said, hey, would you consider being our announcer? And I thought, I think I can do that.
Now he has the best seat in the house. From the school's elite to the championship teams, Steve has seen it all. Since getting behind the mic, he's missed only one game. How many games have you seen from this spot?
Oh, wow. It must be 500 at the varsity level and the same at JV level, so at least 1,000 games.
Even at age 70, his wife Susan says he won't be stopping anytime soon.
And I think they'll have to carry him out someday. He'll be there till the end.
It's a chance to keep rooting for the hometown kids.
Freeland's an awesome community, and we have a great group of kids here. I always say they're not perfect, but they're darn good.
While getting to say that signature farewell that everyone has memorized.
It's Friday night. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Good night. Enjoy your weekend.
Fast forward to today, Steve has now been announcing for the Falcons for 30 years. He was recently given an honorary Lifetime Member Award from the Michigan High School Football Coaches Association. I decided it was time to have another conversation with Steve Gale, and that starts now. Steve, every time we talk, it seems like you are getting some sort of special recognition from the community of Freeland or the state of Michigan, and you certainly deserve it for all the years that you have put in behind the microphone and being a part of the Freeland community. With this new Lifetime Achievement Award that you just got from the Michigan High School Football Coaches Association, what does that mean to you to know that you're being recognized on such a high level like that?
Well, Duff, it's quite humbling. I mean, it's a proud moment, obviously, for me that, you know, I've tried to help out with the schools and everything. But it was very humbling, and I guess I made a joke to some of my friends that, you know, part of the reason that you're getting awards is because you just have some longevity of what you're doing. But I was very honored, and I was humbled. It was kind of hard to sit there and hear some of the things that the people say about you.
And it's not just the recognition that you're getting from the Coaches Association. When this got posted on Facebook, because that's how I found out about it, and I was thrilled to see you holding up that award because you have been doing this for such a long time. A lot of people commented on social media about this latest award. So many people spoke highly of you all the years that they've known you, either as a teacher or they've known you as the public address announcer at Freeland. A lot of people in their posts, they were posting that famous catchphrase of yours, "You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here." You have clearly had such a tremendous influence on the Freeland community. What does it feel like to see those comments?
Well, Duff, I'll be honest, it really brought a tear to my eye. I mean, I know I didn't get a chance to read them all, but, you know, my wife said, hey, they put your picture on Facebook, you know, that Matt Carey took, and there's some comments there. And well, I got on, and I don't know, there was something like 600 comments, and it chokes me up right now thinking about it, how nice this community has been. It's a great community. I've always said we've got really good kids here and good parents, and I've just felt so blessed to be able to work in a place like this.
Could you ever have imagined when you became a teacher in Freeland more than 50 years ago that you would have this impact that you have had on Freeland?
No, I taught 2 years at a parochial school before I came here, and no, I guess, you know what, I watch some of these movies and stuff, and I see these heroes, and I think, boy, I hope I can reach a kid or two over the years to help them out.
And you clearly have. You've reached a milestone just recently this past year. You've been behind the mic now as the public address announcer for Freeland football and basketball for more than 30 years now. The first time you and I met, Steve, they gave you a jersey with the number 25 to honor the years you've been doing this. But now that you've reached the number 30, are you getting a new jersey? I think that's more appropriate now.
Well, I hope not, because I hate to have them spend money on me and stuff. I know you asked me, and Kevin Townsend asked me when I knew I was going to get this award. I wasn't sure exactly what the award was or anything, but he said, do you remember your first game? And I said, you know what? My old buddy Duff Tyler asked me, and I said, I really don't remember the first game. There was a retirement or something, and I took over in football. And, I had no dream that I was going to be here this long. I just thought, well, hey, I can help out. And then a couple years later, Jim Ignatowski was doing a great job in basketball, decided to retire. And so I took over for him. Kevin he says, Steve, we can't find it exactly, but we think it had to be the late 80s or early 90s. And I've looked back, and I can remember some games in 91, 92 that I announced just because of who the coach was and some of the outcomings of it. So I know it's been that long. So, I guess it's been 30, 31 years or maybe a couple one way or the other. And I've just enjoyed it immensely. I mean, especially this time of year, it gives me something to do. Not that I have to try to get out of the house, but it's just something to look forward to. And again, I just think that, hey, I can kind of thank the school district and the Freeland community.
I know you don't remember the first game, but I remember when you and I first talked about this, when I did the story for you on television up in the mid-Michigan area about 5 years ago. I remember you said your initial reaction to being asked if you wanted to do this job was, well, that could be fun. Yeah, I'll give that a try. Do you remember some of those first games that you did, and did you ever get like the jitters or, just were you ever nervous when you were first starting out trying to find that voice?
I don't remember that. I'm sure I tried to be conscious and careful with what I said and all of that, but, I've never minded, being a teacher, I'm kind of used to standing in front of people and talking, and that's never bothered me to get in front of people and say a few words. But I'm sure I was probably trying to be, conscious to get everything right. And like I said, though, I try to just do the information that they need. I don't try to give a lot extra. Once in a while, my spotter will help me out and say, that was a 42-yard run. So I'll say, well, 42-yard run. But I don't remember. I just thought, hey, this is, I guess I probably thought in the back of my mind, how many people listen to that darn announcer anyways, right?
Oh, you'd be surprised, because I know I've done it too. I'll never forget when I first started to try to be a public address announcer, I went a little bit more difficult than you. I tried to do volleyball, and I quickly found out that I was in over my head from the beginning. I was announcing players that weren't even involved in the play, and the coach would be like, nope, you got that wrong.
Yeah.
So he was keeping score. So it happens so fast that you really do need spotters and people to kind of help you out so you make sure that you announce things correctly. Has there ever been a situation where you were behind the mic that it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, oh man, I wish I could have had that moment back. I really goofed on that one.
Well, you know what? If I make a mistake, I say something along the lines of correction. That was John Smith running the ball, something of that nature. I know there probably have been some times where I had to do some backtracking, but I don't remember too many of them. Not that I'm perfect at this job, but and I figure, I think most people try to do the best they can at whatever they're doing, being a parent or at their job or whatever. And I just try to do the best I can to help the school out and help the kids out and get them some attention.
Now, Steve, you do have one rule when you are in the press box or courtside behind the mic, and that is you don't want to make it about yourself. You don't want to get too flashy with how you announce how things are playing out. You want to keep it as low-key as possible.
I jazz it up a little bit for Freeland, with a good basket and stuff like that, but I don't want people coming to hear me. I want them coming to see and hear the kids. So I try to be, as partial as I can, or impartial as I can. Sometimes it just gets away from me a little bit, but I've never gone to schools and loved to hear that, Joe Dumars and enunciating the names so much. And somebody asked me just yesterday, was asking me about the announcing and stuff, and I told them, I've never embarrassed somebody on purpose. I don't tell in football who made the penalty or anything like that. Obviously in basketball I have to, call it. And I go and listen to other announcers, and it really bothers me that they jazz everything up, and I think, people don't want, I don't know if people want to come and hear that. They want to see the kids play, and that's why we're here. The attention should be on the kids, not on the announcers. And it really bugs me when some of these announcers, they announce things they shouldn't say. It's embarrassing to a kid when he says, yeah, that was a dirty hit by number 42, Joe Smith. Or I know I've heard different times they announce a penalty before it's called. And I'd be embarrassed if, the official called it the other way or something. Or I know in football, I'm at, all the games, and we're on the road, and I'll hear him say, Joe Smith going back to pass. Well, I don't know that you should announce that in the middle of a play. To me, I've got a friend that does the announcing at Nouvelle in Saginaw, and we both agree we're announcers, not broadcasters. And there's a big difference, at least in my mind.
You don't necessarily know what the first game was, but when they first came to you and asked you if you wanted to do this, what was it about this opportunity that you found so appealing?
I just remember, I don't even remember who asked me, to be honest, if it was the AD way back when or whom. They said, hey, we need somebody to announce the football game Friday. You think you could do that? And I just kind of remember saying, yeah, I think I can do that. Why not? You know, I'm not having to perform. I just have to read kids' names and try to get the right score and things like that. So I just thought it'd be something fun to do.
The good thing is, a lot of those kids, I'm guessing you probably had in your class, too, so you knew how to say their names. That's something that when I got behind the mic many years ago, I struggled with mightily, even with pronunciation guides. There's always those kids who have that, like, one name that's got, like, 8 consonants in a row, and you're trying to spit that out on the mic, and it's just not happening. Have you ever had any names that you just, like, really struggled with, or some names that really stick out over the years?
The first thing I do is go to the visitors and go through the names. I pronounce names. And I know in basketball we're at the same table. And I always tell them, hey, yell at me if I goof it up. I'm not here to goof the kids' names up. I want the names perfect as I can get it. And luckily, I've had a few of those names, and, the score at basketball or the scouts in football say, you know what, we just call him Jimmy Joe or whatever it is. And I say, that works for me if that's what you call him. And so I always try to check that because I know in Freeland we've had some students that were cousins, and one was a Dupuis and the other one was a Dupas, and I had a Schroeder and a Schrader spelled exactly the same that were cousins. So Kruger and Krieger is another name that always comes up. So I always check the names, and I tell them, correct me if I say it wrong. Come over and yell at me. I don't mind at all. I want to get it right for the kids.
For a lot of these kids that you have announced them scoring or making a play, that's a big moment for them. That's like kind of like their sports center moment, because for a lot of these kids, it probably won't go beyond high school. So hearing their name from the public address announcer from the entire stadium, that's something that's going to resonate with them for the rest of their lives. What's it like to know that you're giving these kids that moment?
I never thought of it that way, but you're right. And again, if I can just help some kid feel better about himself and make his day, hey, it made my day too.
Coming up, Steve explains how he came up with his signature catchphrase.
Yo, what's happening, everybody? This is Ryan Slocum, and you are listening. There ain't nobody better. This is the best local sports podcast in the biz, and that's a Duff said.
If it's pizza night, Sheldon Street Pizza has got you covered. Sheldon's pizzas are always made fresh when you order them, and the readers of the Lake Orion Review have voted Sheldon's breadsticks as the best in Lake Orion. Stop by Sheldon Street Pizza at 3767 South Baldwin Road in Orion Township, or you can order online by visiting sheldonstreetpizza.com. Don't forget to try one of Sheldon's salads with his special blend of homemade salad dressings. He's also got some pretty tasty desserts as well. Sheldon Street Pizza. More than just pizza. It's the official pizza of a Duff set. Okay, I want to take a second now to talk to the parents and adults listening to this podcast. If you are looking for a fun night out during the weekend here in Lake Orion, then stop by Fourth Coast Cider Works. Fourth Coast Cider Works is the place to be for hard cider in Oakland County. Located in the main entrance to Canterbury Village, Fourth Coast is quality craftsmanship, quality hard cider. Stop by Fourth Coast and try some of their many flavors on tap. You can also take some home in a can or a howler. Fourth Coast is open Thursday through Sunday. For a complete list of ciders and hours, go to fourthcoastciderworks.com. Fourth Coast Cider Works. The best hard cider is on the Fourth Coast. Not available for anyone under the age of 21. Please drink responsibly. You and I sat at the announce table in the Freeland gym back in 2018, and I asked you, how many games have you seen from that spot? And I think the count at that point, Steve, was probably somewhere around 1,000. Any idea what the number is now?
Well, if you think, well, of course, some nights there's 3 games. But if you think just the varsity, there's 10 boys and 10 girls games typically in a season at home. And if you do, 20 times 30 years, that, depending on how many weeks in the district games and stuff, that's 600 games right there. And there's always JV and freshman games that are there. I've kept it just to the varsity and whoever's playing with the varsity. So if the boys are home, I'll have 3 games, a freshman, JV, and varsity, and then the same with the girls. And when it's both varsity teams, sometimes there's a freshman or a JV game, but typically just those 2 games. So there's been quite a few.
Every one of those games, every time the final buzzer sounds, you have an announcement you love to make to the crowd. It goes like this. It's Friday night. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. People love that. People associate that with you. Everybody knows Steve Gale for not just being the public address announcer, but to know that that is coming at the end of the game, win or lose for Freeland. How did you come up with that?
Well, I stole that from the Blues Brothers, the movie The Blues Brothers.
Great movie.
When they were in the bar and they said, it's quitting time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I thought that would be a nice thing. I put that in, and then I usually try to wish people have a good weekend. And, sometimes I might say a little quip like, do something kind for somebody. You never know when they really need it.
When you think about how many people have been impacted by what you've done on the mic, what is that like to know that people associate having a good time at a Freeland game with you?
Well, again, it's kind of humbling, and same as when I was teaching. I guess if I can help make somebody's day, that's a good thing. If I could do that every day for somebody, that means I've done something right.
You don't just attend games at Freeland as the public address announcer. You're the ultimate fan, too. You attend road games for Freeland football and basketball. Why does the school and its sports teams mean so much to you that you don't want to just be a part of the home games? You want to go support them on the road as well?
Well, that probably started when I was first teaching, and I would have had all the kids in school. And just something to see them mature and grow and improve and grow into young adults and all of that. And that just kind of carried over. Since I retired, I've still subbed, not as much. The first few years, I did some long-term sub jobs for somebody who was having an operation, or if one of the ladies were out on a pregnancy leave. So I did quite a few long-term sub jobs, sometimes 12 weeks or whatever it would take for them. And so for the most part, for the last couple of years, I don't sub quite as much anymore. I kind of pick and choose a little bit. So I've always known the kids. And I just, to me, it's enjoyable. Going to a game, watching some kids try their best and learn some life skills and how to work and cooperate and do things like that. Have a popcorn and a pop. I guess I've always thought I was in heaven, just being able to go and do that.
That is what Friday nights in really any state. I know I'm from Indiana. We always associate Friday nights with being in the gym for a basketball game, but I think Michigan has that tradition too. And that, for a lot of people, is the perfect way to spend a Friday night. And you obviously get so much enjoyment out of it. Where are some places that you have gone to follow Freeland that you never thought you would have even set foot in had it not been for Freeland going to play an athletic contest there?
Well, a few years back when we played in Menominee, a buddy that I taught with, and I got up early and drove there and drove all the way back. So we went all the way up to the game and back, and that was a tough game that they lost by a touchdown. But that was interesting, and you know, the teacher in me kind of likes going in a lot of these different schools, obviously all the conference schools, but, you know, when we, you know, go to a school that I haven't been to before, it's kind of fun just to see what the school looks like and what the facilities are. And sometimes when I'm out to get a popcorn, there will be a teacher or something there, and I'll kibitz with them about, you know, how are things going, and it's just enjoyable. You know, going to a lot of the tournament games, we only played Ithaca in tournaments, but it sure is fun to go to Ithaca, and that's a beautiful facility that they have. I know Freeland's now has been upgraded to one of the top-notch ones around too, but or Shepherd, you know, they have a very beautiful facility. But it's enjoyable to see what other places do, and I got to be honest, I always kind of listen to see what the announcer might say that I could use and to help me out. But, yeah, I've enjoyed going to all the different schools. And as far as I know, I've only missed one basketball game. My granddaughter had a performance. And over the years, I missed one game when she said, "Papa, will you come?" And I couldn't say no.
Yeah, so that was like the end of the streak for you. But you have been pretty much consistent throughout this entire time. You have obviously built up so many memories with being a member of the Freeland community. Are there moments that just are always going to stand out as some of your best memories?
Oh, yes. Well, I'm quite active in my church. We go to St. Agnes. It's a Catholic church, and I've always been very involved there. You know, I've been on lots of committees and commissions and stuff, and I taught some of their religious ed classes, and I still serve in a ministerial capacity, and that's always good. I guess I've loved Freeland. My wife is from Freeland, and I'm from Saginaw, but, you know, when I came here, I just enjoyed it, so I've helped with, numerous things. I've helped with Cub Scouts and Little League. I know in Freeland I've done some other things besides the announcing and stuff. I've been involved in student council, in our FEA, union. I did that stuff. I ran a golf league. I did some Boy Town stuff. Like I said, Cub Scouts. Well, one of the things that Freeland does is in 6th grade, the students go to Hartley Outdoor Education Center over in St. Charles, and they spend 3 days and 2 nights. And I did that, 15 or 20 times when I was teaching, and I've done it a handful of times since then, helping out. If the 6th grade staff only has one male, rather than have one male stay the whole week, I've gone out and helped to be with the kids. It's just kind of fun to see the kids when they're out there, and they see you in jeans and a sweatshirt and out of school and stuff, and it's a nice way for them to see me. It's kind of nice. I go down to the hardware or something, and the kids will say hi to me, and it's kind of nice getting a little recognition back from the kids when they say hi. It makes you feel good that, geez, I guess we've got a little bit of a rapport here. And so Freeland's one of those kinds of communities. It's just been lots of good things that people asked me to help with, and I've been glad to do it. We had one called Kids Helping Kids, and during our Walleye Festival, we would have 3 or 4 big semis come in that were going to Goodwill. Emmaus House is a house in Saginaw for expectant mothers that need some help, and Salvation Army. Well, we would set up and take in everything that people would bring, put it in the trucks, and we did that for 5 or 6 years. So it's been fun to give back, and the people have helped me a lot. I know some of my students have nominated me for some awards, and I was an Apple nominee, and two of my students at different years nominated me for the Disney American Teacher Award. Now, my friends all said, well, what will you do if you win that? And I said, you know what? I think I do a pretty good job, but the people that win that work in inner cities, and they're getting kids off the street, off of drugs and stuff, that are going to win that. I'm just honored that the people think enough of me to, nominate me.
I am so glad that you brought up the fact that you've only missed one game throughout this entire tenure as the public address announcer for Freeland. When I got a chance to interview you and your wife, Susan, 5 years ago, she probably had the best quote between the two of you, and she said, they're probably going to have to drag Steve out of the gym to keep him from announcing or going to games. I know you said that you probably didn't anticipate doing this for 30 years, but would you have ever have imagined that it would have lasted this long?
No, well, same with, I'm very proud that this is my 50th year working at the Freeland Community School District. And when you sign on, so to speak, you never really think that you're going to last that long. And one correction I have, this past year I did miss a game with COVID. I came up with positive with COVID. It's funny, Duff. Other people that have it, it's been so miserable. For me, I had a tiny little tickle in my throat, and Susan said, why don't you just check it, just in case, so you don't infect anybody or whatever, and it was positive, so I had to miss, I forget if it was 1 or 2 games this past year, a year ago. But I've gone to school 100 times feeling worse than that, but I'm glad that I didn't go, and gosh, how could you forgive yourself if something drastic would happen because I was thoughtless and went to a game and infected someone, especially in this community.
Yeah, that's how much that community means to you, that you did have to take a night off. But for you, there have been so few off nights, and I'm glad that you've had this longevity that you've been able to put together for the last several decades now. Is there a time that you might be thinking that it might be time to hang it up on the microphone, or do you plan to keep going as long as you can?
When the school or whoever says, Steve, I think we're going to put you out to pasture. Right now, I feel pretty good. I feel healthy. I can walk up the stairs to get to the press box with no problem. I'd like to do it as long as I could comfortably do it. I know that, do you know Bud Scherzer that announces over in St. Charles?
I've never heard of him.
Well, honest to goodness, Duff, he's like 65 years he's been doing it. I mean, just a long, long time. And, and he says, no, I'm going to keep going till I can't. And I feel the same way, if something would happen to me that I couldn't physically do it, I would be sad. But I'm looking forward to, next week having a couple games at home. We've got districts coming up the end of the month at Freeland, and Jeff asked, are you down with it? And I said, sign me up. I'll be there. I said, we always have a joke, people will ask me about any remuneration, and I said, you know what? The check's in the mail. I don't do this. I don't want to get paid, but the kindness that people do for me, like I said, I just like to give back, and I don't know if I'd enjoy it as much if I got paid. Then I'd feel like it's a job. Right now, it's a avocation that I like doing, and that makes it fun.
And that makes me pretty confident in saying you are the best high school sports public address announcer in the state of Michigan, and I hope this just continues to keep going. Steve Gale, thank you so much for making the time this week. I appreciate it. Congratulations on the new award, and congratulations on having such a long and enjoyable career following Freeland High School.
Well, thank you for the best local sports podcast anywhere, let alone in Michigan. And that's an A. Duff said.
I appreciate that. That is the perfect way to end this. Steve, thank you so much.
Thanks, Duff.
And that's a wrap on this edition of A Duff Said. Many thanks once again to Steve Gale for making some time this week. He was our announcer at the beginning of the show. Our other announcer this week was my friend and Emmy award-winning sportscaster, Ryan Slocum. Now, if you would like to hear previous episodes of this podcast, then go to my website, aduffsaid.com. You can hear the many shows I have done over the years on Freeland Sports, as well as the shows that I've done on the many wonderful people that are in that community. Be sure to click on the Duff's Videos tab so you can see the story that I did with Steve back in 2018. Now be sure to subscribe to this podcast. You can do that at Podbean, Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Facebook. Just look me up. My handle there is sports journalist Duff Tyler. Over on Twitter, you can find me at my handle, can you guess it? Duff Tyler. And no, I did not pay Elon for the blue check mark. I just don't have enough followers right now to justify that expense, but maybe you can help me out there. Follow me on Twitter. Until next time, I am Duff Tyler, and I'm reminding you that if Duff said it, it must be true, because that's what a Duff said.
Thanks for listening, folks. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.